Hello everyone, Phil here from PC Games Zen. With me is Matt.
Hello.
Matt, you've been knee-deep in Rainbow Six Siege's upcoming DLC expansion.
Yep. It's the first one of year 2, which is Velvet Shell.
The Velvet Underground, that's right.
Yeah, there's no Lou when I was playing it. He seemed conspicuously absent.
Well, he's an evasive figure, isn't he, these days?
These
No,
days.
it is the Velvet Shell. Do we know why it's called the Velvet Shell, or is that just a sort of Tom Clancy sounding
they
thing?
They love these, don't they? It's like the last one was Red Crow. What's that got to do with the Japanese? Absolutely nothing. But yeah, so it's Velvet Shell, which tells you absolutely nothing about the fact that they are Spanish operators.
I often think of Velvet Shells.
What, when you're thinking about Spain?
When I'm in Spain. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. So yeah, we get to say hello to two new operatives, which are Jackal and Mira.
Okay, well, let's start with Jackal then. What does he bring to the table?
So Jackal is I guess you could call him a tracker. He's part of the attacking team, and basically he's got a gadget called the Inox, which when you activate it, puts like a purple sort of haze over the screen and highlights footprints on the ground. So they turn up in like a luminescent thermal tracking kind of thing. So the closer you are to them, the more recent the footprints. They're an orange, and if they're older footprints that will be further away from where they are now, they're kind of a sort of blue. Basically, you can have that on all the time, which means that I guess he's one of the more powerful kind of operators in terms of the fact that his vision doesn't run out. It's not on like a timer or anything like that. The way that it's resource managed, though, is the fact that you can only use a special tracking system on it 3 times. And that is if you hold F while looking at their footprints, it will actually then ping where they are with a HUD indicator, and it does that every 15 seconds for a short period. You can only use this 3 times, but it allows you to essentially find exactly where that operator is.
Right.
So the reason why they've kind of created Jackal is this idea that at the moment the meta has sort of shifted around, whereas when Siege first came out, the idea is that the defenders all sort of hunkered down in a room around sort of like whether it be the bombs or the hostage they got, and you all sort of like you put reinforcements up and you block yourself in and stay there with what you've got. As time's gone on, people tend to start to favour a tactic called roaming, where basically the defending team will be walking around the entire map, hunting down the attackers and not staying still. And basically that sort of turned around why you sort of like various different operators, kind of like the Brazilian operators added a system called Silent Step, where you could walk around without producing footsteps, which meant that it was obviously difficult for an attacker that was breaching in to know where you were.
Yeah, there's no reason to camp, I suppose, if you've got that ability.
Exactly. So as an attacker, it's suddenly more difficult if like, you can't guarantee that those operators, the defending operators, are going to be where you thought they were when you were doing the planning stage.
Yeah.
So what Jackal does is obviously he can track, and it means now these roamers, you can help sort of like zero in on them and hunt them down and kill them. So yeah, it's sort of like essentially been designed to break this roamer meta and maybe possibly put things back to the idea that people have to defend a certain area a bit closer.
It's a shame that you actually get to see where the tracked player is in a way, because it negates the tactic of sort of doing a big loop-the-loop of footprints for the first few seconds of a round to throw people off the scent.
I think the thing is with him is that like because you're limited to only being able to track exactly where an operator is to the 3 times,
Yeah.
I actually think you'll probably find that I know the rounds only tend to last about 5 minutes, but if you were having a particularly long tense round and you'd run out of them, I can see it being like, those one-on-one battles where it will just be a Jackal using just the footprint scanning that you can to do proper pathfinding and sort of like track someone down with those.
That sounds like good fun, but Jackal is not the only new operative.
No,
There's also Mira.
Yeah, Mira, and she's my favourite out of the 2. I've played with her quite a lot so far, and as I say, there's this sort of feeling that Velvet Shell is trying to push back to kind of like the original idea of the meta, where there was more of a defence of a single area. So what Mira does is she's got the Black Mirror, which she carries 2 of these, and they're a...
Oh, I get her name now.
Yeah, there we go.
I see.
And basically they are a window that you can put into a reinforced wall. So you put the metal reinforcements up on a wall like you would in a normal kind of like defense setup situation. But then you can place this window onto the wall, and what it does is when it blows through, it creates a window for people that are inside the room so you can see out. But on the other side, it's actually like a black mirror. So when attackers are coming at your room, they can't see through it, but you can see them. And
do they see an actual mirror?
Or yeah, do they just... So they, well, it's more of kind of like a very dull sort of black pane of glass that's in the window. It doesn't like do a full-on reflection, but all they can see is like this black sheet of glass.
So they might not notice it straight away.
Yeah, you'd know that there was like a big ruddy hole in it.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's certainly in some areas of the new map, which I'll talk about in a bit. But because it's a nightclub, there's lots of shiny surfaces and stuff like that. So it doesn't instantly sort of shout like, oh, hey, the enemy are looking at you here.
Right.
But what that does mean is like, we're so used to having to roam around maps to get like greater vision. So we can either use the cameras that are set up in a map as a defender, or you can roam. The idea of kind of having this two-way sort of mirror setup is that we've now got a larger view of the map and of what the enemy are doing than we would have normally if we just wanted to stay still. So if you can put two of these in a room, you could have sort of like, for example, if there's a courtyard area in front of you, you can put this window in and suddenly you've got view over an entire courtyard, and you can see when enemies might be rappelling down into it and approaching your room to take your hostage or bombs or whatever. So that's really, really good for increasing your vision. What you can also do is, if you're inside the room with that window, there's like a little gas canister underneath the glass. If you shoot it, it will drop the pane of glass out, which means that you've suddenly got a hole that you can fire through. So if there's someone just sort of like milling around just outside it, just drop the glass and you've got a perfect headshot lined up there.
Very handy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I think you mentioned that there's also a new map.
Yeah. So
let's talk about that.
As we all know, a Rainbow Six Siege expansion will always come with 2 new operators and a map. The map is obviously with the Spanish theme. It's set in Ibiza.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, so it's literally on a little section of the Ibizan island. It's a nightclub, as you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting because what you've got is this nightclub in the centre of. Because as you know, so like Ibiza actually has got some really lovely kind of old ruiny bits to it.
Yeah,
so
it's a bit of a cultural city as well as being
so
Tongland.
It's got that clash to it. It's got this lovely sort of outdoors section with like slightly crumbling ruins. And then you've got this nightclub in the middle, and so obviously that means that the map is at its best when it's set at night, because you've got all the thudding tunes and all that kind of stuff going on. But it's really interesting because it's quite tight and compact compared to certain maps, like the sort of like slums area of the Brazil map was kind of quite open and sort of really spanning around like the favela area.
Yeah.
Whereas this is very much like, there's a sequence of rooms within this nightclub, and it's very, very tightly compacted. But they're all, if you can imagine it, sort of like a square donut almost shape, and in the middle is this courtyard. So it's a 2-level thing, and it's this great idea of that you, as an attacker, you can go onto the roof and drop yourself down into this courtyard. But as defenders, you're normally on one of the rooms that are adjacent to that courtyard, which instantly means that mirror is a really interesting addition because you can create vision into this courtyard, whereas typically if you were using like the vanilla operatives, you wouldn't.
So that's what's coming up in Rainbow Six Siege's Velvet Shell expansion pack. For more like this, remember to hit the subscribe button directly below and ring that bell as well to get notifications from us when we put a new video up. Let us know what you think about the new expansion in the comments below, and if you enjoyed watching, give us a thumbs up. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.